Okay, so today I want to talk about how the third world, specifically Africa, Jamaica, Caribbean countries, even South America, but I'm really talking about Africa and a lot of the Afro diasporic countries, how they can get filthy rich. And basically, this idea came from my concept of thinking that these countries are copying the wrong homework, right? All countries copy each other. We see good ideas. Countries see good ideas like, oh, yeah, we should do something like that here. But what happens when you copy the wrong homework? And the idea of it basically means that I think a lot of these countries are looking at the EU, looking at the United States, looking at Canada, and be like, hey, let's do everything they're doing here, right? But I think that the fundamental issue with that is like looking at a third generation rich kid and be like, I'm going to act just like him, right? You're looking at Henry Ford's great grandson and be like, I need to do exactly what that kid's doing. When the reality is, you should be looking at Henry Ford. And so when you look at it like that, it's just like, all right, when did America get rich, right? When did the EU get rich? Of course, they've been rich for hundreds of years, but when did the industrial cycle, right? When the industrial revolution happened and post that, what really spiked their growth? And what did they change? What were the societal elements that were sitting there, and how did they utilize that to get where they are now? Because where America is now is it's maintaining its wealth, right? If you don't have wealth, you maintain it, you'll just maintain it. You won't grow it. You need to. A lot of these countries need to grow in order to feed its massive population. In like Nigeria's case, or even just to be able to feed entitlements, like in Jamaica's case, right? So it's just like you need growth in order to give people the free stuff that they want and also to provide opportunity. So you just need growth. And what gives growth? Because right now the EU isn't a great example of growth, right? So since the 80s, they've contracted and China has since took that that growth, right? So I'm perhaps looking at what China is doing, not even in the communist CCP party type of thing, but what their economic strategy, like looking at what they're doing, right? Or looking at America pre 1940s. What were they doing? What was America doing from the 20s to the 40s to the 60s in order to get their growth, right? Where did they invest? What did they do legally to allow people to flourish, right? And the whole idea is that you can't look at what a nation's doing now, copy that right now, and then do that, because you're going to end up not understanding why they're doing the thing that they're doing. You need to look back further, because it's the same thing that happens with entrepreneurship or any type of self-help in a life way. Is like, I can't do what LeBron James is doing right now if I want to get good at basketball. What was he doing when he was my age, right? Because we have different body types. I'm in my mid 20s. He's in his early 40s. It's not going to work the same, right? What was he doing in his 20s, right? If I was going to the league or anything like that, right? So it's just like spin back the wheels of time and see what that nation was doing, right? And a lot of what I see a lot of these nations doing is handicapping themselves when it comes to growth, right? Where they're introducing a lot of legal protections, and they're adding a lot of regulations to businesses and things like this. When that just hampers business growth, right? Businesses can't grow and provide opportunities, right? When you have a country like America that has millions of businesses, they can afford to destroy some of their businesses. I mean, who knows for how long, in order to trade that off with higher paying jobs. And then it just gets inflated away in the long term. But in the short term, it looks good to get the votes for this election cycle, right? And so you end up just with this thing where it's like, okay, we're going to add all these regulations. We're going to force our minimum wage up, but then everything goes up by the same amount that you force the minimum wage up. So it's like you didn't even do anything except you destroyed businesses along the way, because there's only a few companies that can afford to pay those type of things, and the less businesses that can, the less will exist. So it's like you need to have these trade-offs, these ugly truths that you have to just handle, right? So, and a lot of these countries have to deal with these ugly truths in order to get where they are. And if you aren't willing to deal with ugly truths, right, the truth of like, oh yeah, maybe this is going to sound crazy, but like child labor laws, a lot of countries that just kind of went around it and kept doing child labor laws, by the time their countries got rich, kids stopped working in factories, right? And it's like, yeah, because parents, as soon as they get wealthy, they don't want to send their kids to factories anymore. Like America probably, like if they made kids work, not made, but like remove child labor laws, kids wouldn't just start working in factories, because most parents just wouldn't let them. They'd let them go to school if they could afford it, right? And that's what I mean by like copying the wrong homework. That was probably not the best example, but the same with minimum wage laws. Like if you look at Singapore, Singapore doesn't have any minimum wage laws, right? They have no minimum wage. It might have changed in the last year or 2 years maybe, but their whole time through their rapid growth phase, no minimum wage, right? They focus on creating opportunities in their country that would lead them to having higher paying wages because the market dictates their wage, not the country. Because if the country dictates your wage, people are not going to come and spend money in your country, right? And when you are a smaller country, like something like Jamaica, like you need foreign income to come and invest in your country, as well as your country exporting, right? So I lost my whole train of thought, but having a strong currency, but having a strong like good or service that people want to buy in your nation kind of just gives you like an undeniable thing, right? Where it's like, if you look at Taiwan, for example, right? The whole world needs their computer chips, right? So it's like they could remove their minimum wage law, it wouldn't matter, right? Because we all need the stuff that they have, right? Same with South Korea, right? With all of the technology that comes out of South Korea. Same with Japan, right? It's just like, it just would not have mattered because they're making a good that's so valuable, right? So that's what I mean by like, don't be careful what they copy. You don't need to copy the homework, right? So the homework that you should be copying to get to that point is free trade, right? Allowing people in your country to build businesses, helping them build those businesses, making it be a forgiving environment for new business owners to be able to grow and create businesses that can thrive and export goods, export services, and bring in and import wealth and import talent from other countries to be able to help them build these companies, right? And being strategic with them, right? Like seeding ideas to up and coming high IQ individuals in your country, because every country has super high IQ individuals, maybe far and few between when it comes to like a lot of these newer developing countries, but every country has smart people in it. But it's about not just having those smart people, but enabling them to be able to create opportunities for the rest of the country, right? Because it's all about human capital, right? The number one thing that a lot of the greatest nations in the world have is just really smart people. If you have really smart people, but then there's like, you split that smartness in half. You have intelligence and you have agency. And there's high agency individuals that aren't that smart, right? They end up getting rich anyways. And there's high intelligence people that don't have very much agency, and they might get very wealthy. They usually get a pretty good job. But when you have high intelligence people that are also high agency, you have people that can change an entire direction of a nation, right? Like talking 10, 20 people that can take a nation from third world to first world, right? Like it's not that many people that it takes. So it's like, you don't really need an entire country to change. You just need a few individuals but if you enable the entire nation to be able to be higher agency, you end up having this growth that can go parabolic for you. And like all these nations, they want jobs. They want jobs. They want to work. They want opportunities. But these opportunities don't come out of thin air. The government won't create these opportunities for you. Actually, if they do create it for you, they'll just use it to enslave you, basically. Not literally enslave you, but force you to vote a certain way, right? If you vote for this party, you get to keep your job. This party wants to take your jobs, right? And you're just stuck in a situation where you never quite get what you want because you're kind of attached to them. Compare that to an opportunity where you're not attached to the government in any such way, and their job is to serve you, right? Literally serve you, because you can switch parties if you want. You can vote for the other party if you want. But if you're stuck pigeonholed voting for one party because they're going to be the ones that feed you, you never actually get anything fixed, because the moment they fix it, then you'll leave, right? So you're stuck. And that's what I mean about like, you have to have optionality and you have to have agency at the same time. And agency creates optionality, because if you can just, to talk about agency really quick, agency is just the ability to choose your direction and go in that direction without anyone telling you what to do, right? There's no blueprint to starting $1 billion company that will raise the GDP per capita in your country by 25 to 30%. There's no blueprint. Maybe there is but you have to create your own blueprint. Right? You can go look at companies that's done that in their own countries, whether it be Samsung, whether it be Honda, Toyota, TSMC, ASML, like these huge data, and yeah, even the huge data companies like Google or Apple, like America's too big to move it in that much direction. But if you look at maybe Singapore, Silicon Valley, they probably moved up wages quite a bit, right? But yeah, that's what I mean by like, I think a lot of the third world has a crisis of agency. And what they need to do is allow their higher agency individuals in their country be able to build. And right now, their rules and regulations that they've created get in the way of these highly agentic people. And what happens is what everyone talks about, brain drain. These people just leave. They go to a different nation. They go to America. America is still the number one space where people move to, is because you can still be pretty agentic here, right? Like even though it's, seemed as bad in a lot of cases, it's like you can still start a business here and get pretty successful without needing to go to college. And if you go to college, even better, right? Because you can do more complicated things. But you can't say the same about the EU. The EU is still a great place to move, don't get me wrong, especially if you compare it to some of these developing nations. But they make it very hard for you to start a business compared to America. And I think they're trending downwards. I think America's also maybe on a flat trajectory, but like it can go either one or either way. I don't think, and also another thing is I don't think history is paused, right? I think Africa can get to the first world status. It may not be in this century. It may not be in this decade. It could be in this century. It could be in and it could be in the next decade. But I'd bet against the next decade because a lot would have to change. But like these things can change and these things can happen and things can change. So history isn't done, right? We're still going in a direction, right? And it's not always straight progressive growth, right? So people can be in decline, people can be on the incline. It's just, what is your country doing and what are your people doing, right? And that's just the idea behind it. So yeah, that's how I think Africa can get filthy rich is, becoming culturally agentic, focusing on allowing people to build and create their own opportunities and creating opportunities for the people around them. Yeah. So, by the way, comment down below because I am an idiot, right? I want to have an intellectual conversation with other people that think like I do, or not even think like I do, think the complete opposite of I do. Share your ideas here. I want the comment section to be a place where people that want to solve the problems for their nations talk to each other, right? What could we actually do to help our nations get in a direction? Because we all just want a better life for the people that we care about. And how do we get there? And let's discuss real ways that it can get there. Because I'll respond in the comment section. I don't care, right? Like we can end up talking, becoming friends. I don't mind. I just want to have intellectual conversations and have a great time. Yeah. But Paul, my best friend, if you're watching this, comment down below too. See you guys later. Peace.